Serhii Kalinets from Pretty Much Tech here, and today I want to talk about the tooling for DevOps. This session is about CLI tools. It's primarily intended for junior and mid DevOps, but it might be useful for senior guys, especially for those guys who collected their tool belt years ago and don't try to find anything new. And the idea of this talk is to provide you with thoughts and ideas how you can actually spend less time doing more work. Because if you get your job done faster, you will have more time for doing some really funny stuff, for doing some creative work, and so on. And also, I think that this is very important to have a fun doing the job. And tool belt, modern and cool tool belt, is essential for this. Because if you have some obsolete, non-cool tools, hardly you will get fun from your job. Okay, so let's move to the set of tools that I personally use and I can recommend to everyone. First question is, what terminal to choose? And the answer is choose whatever you want. Personally, I use iTerm2. However, I try not to use it built-in features like different key combinations, some automation tasks, layouts, and so on. I prefer to use another tool for this. And the advantage of this approach is that you can use this with any terminal. So basically, you don't have any vendor lock. Today, I'm sitting on Mac and I'm using iTerm. Tomorrow, I can switch to some Linux machine and use another terminal there. But with my toolset, I can get almost the same experience everywhere. And the first thing that allows me to get this smooth everywhere experience is Tmax. Tmax actually is terminal multiplexer, and the idea is pretty simple. Idea is to split your one terminal window into different areas to create multiple sessions, windows, panes, switch between them, store them, and so on. So this is what it does. It basically takes one physical window and breaks it into multiple one. I can show you how it works. So right now I'm in my terminal. To run Tmax, we use Tmax command and new session. We'll give it a name demo. Okay, now we are in our session named demo. We can create another pane. Basically, we can divide our screen into two halves. We can split either horizontally or vertically. Let's split it horizontally. We have a special key combinations for doing this, and Tmax has a lot of different key combinations. I'm using it for years. However, I don't think that I'm using at least 50 or 60% of it. So right now we have two panes, and basically we can execute different commands. We can go to different directories in each of them and do whatever we want. Usual workflow for me is to open some editor from on the top and to execute some command below. Yeah, like this. So we can change the size of our panes. We can see our session. Session is demo. It contains of one window, and window contains of two panes. We can switch to any of these. We can maximize if needed, switch between them. We can make a window from a pane. So Right now we have one window. However, we can click some magic buttons and our pane becomes another window. And we can do whatever we want, switch to last, to previous, by number, and so on. This is very convenient if you are working on some project and need, for example, to modify some files. Like I use it when I develop some Kubernetes manifest. I'm working on it and I don't want to apply manually my changes. So in one window, I'm running actually Vim with my files. And in another window, I'm running some utility that watches the changes on these files and apply that automatically. Usually this is Nodemon. It's very cool thing from Node.js, but you can use whatever you want. And if you're doing programming, then probably your programming framework already has some utility. For .NET, it's .NET Watch. For Node.js, it's NPM and so on. So yeah, you can get like IDE experience just in one single terminal. So I don't use any tabs, whatever. I just create multiple sessions, multiple windows within sessions, and I can add this window. I can save this layout, restore it. Sometimes it even lives across reboots. So yeah, Tmax is a cool thing, and I recommend you using it. Next question is, what shell should I use? Of course, the default is Bash. However, I think that nowadays we have better alternatives than Bash, and my personal choice is ZShell. I haven't tried other shells, to be honest. I tried ZShell and I'm completely satisfied. This is shell that has some improvements over Bash. Basically, it allows you to type less commands and do things faster. It has a very cool thing named Oh My ZShell. This is a framework for configuring ZShell. It has very huge list of different things that changes everywhere, from colors to the prompt to layout and so on. And also it has tons of plugins for almost everything. I mainly use plugins to add auto-completion for tools that I'm using. So there are different ways to install auto-completion for things like kubectl, or maybe Git, or maybe whatever. And ZShell provides a very convenient option when you just need to add one line to configuration, and this auto-completion will appear almost instantly. Let's see how it looks. Basically, we already can see how it looks. You can see my prompt. My prompt is 2 lines, has size of 2 lines. This is very essential for me because I don't like when I have, for example, some long path, and this long path will take all the space from my command in a regular prompt, and I have only very narrow space where I can type the command. I cannot see it whole. 2 lines prompt completely solves this problem. We can see that I'm on Mac, I am at home directory, and I'm using the Kubernetes cluster named Docker Desktop. This is my kubectl is connected to. Also, if I would use some other tools, it might detect when you are currently connected. Yeah, that's very convenient, very nice, and very cool. Also, the color scheme is good. I spent some time trying to find some color scheme that was fine for me. Usually I don't like to spend hours configuring stuff, trying to find fonts, colors, some combinations or config options that would work for me. Instead, I like to find some defaults and things made out of the box. And on my ZShell plus theme named Powerline 10K did all the job. So I highly recommend it for quick start to get really nicely look terminal, and you will have very nice feeling when you work with it. It's really just a good thing. Okay, so shell is clear. Next tool, maybe the most important for me, is Vim. I think that every DevOps should know Vim. At least you need to know how to exit it. Otherwise, you could stuck there forever, like 2.5 million people asking this question on Stack Overflow. But jokes aside, Vim is essential for DevOps, not because it's installed on maybe on every Linux or Mac installation, but the other reason why it's essential is because its key bindings, so basically key combinations, are used in many other tools in Unix or Linux ecosystem. Tmax that I showed you previously, it supports key bindings from Vim. Also, things like less, different pages, main documentation viewer, they all also support key navigation from Vim. So you just need to know it. Also, there is a possibility to install extension for Chrome. It's called Vimium, and it also adds Vim shortcuts to navigate through Chrome. So you can just scroll page up and down, open links, find text, and do it everything without your hands leaving the keyboard, so you don't need mouse at all. And this is, I think, rather cool. Vim itself deserves a separate session, so I won't be talking much more about it, but you definitely need to know it. Next thing from what you definitely need to know is Git. Of course, as a DevOps, you will probably set up some CI/CD stuff. Most likely your teams are using Git already, and also GitOps. Well, to do GitOps, you need to know Git. But I can propose one more use case for Git. It's when you need to make changes on some server that doesn't have any GitOps stuff or that doesn't have any CI/CD. So there are some servers installed years ago by some guy who just SSH to it, made some configuration changes, like he changed, I don't know, Nginx config, installed some PHP, something else, restarted daemons, and here we go. So we got working server, and when we need to make changes there, one important thing is making backups. So we need to make sure that our changes, we will be able to revert them back if things go crazy. One common approach is to create backup copies, just copy files to some other directory. Then in case of some catastrophe, we can just rewrite them back. However, more convenient way would be just to create a new Git repository in the directory where we are going to make changes, then commit all the files at the first commit, and after that we can just do our changes. At any time we can revert changes back using Git. We can also push our updated config to some Git repository, and then we can just make some pull and GitOps if we will update files on the server, and some cron job will just fetch changes once per minute or whatever. And yeah, in this case Git could help us to make changes on some old crazy stuff in safe way. This is good. Next in my list is very nice, small, and useful utility called TLDR. This is too long, didn't read. Usually this acronym is used when we got some huge amount of text and we just need to read it through to understand something simple. And when you have a question about how some utility works, you can refer to documentation. Back in times when we didn't have any internet, Google, whatever, developers of Unix and then Linux created a lot of documentation that is available by man command, and everyone knows that man has very comprehensive. This is very cool description of most of the commands, and the authors of these utilities were not only great programmers, they also were great technical writers. I enjoy reading documentation, but there is one problem. When I need to find an answer to some specific case, I probably don't need to read the whole documentation. For me, it would be faster to Google it to find some Stack Overflow answer, and that's it. And TLDR is basically doing this job. It provides just short summary for some command. For example, we have a ls command. If we open man ls, we can see a lot of stuff, right? It's nice, all options there, but it's really hard to grasp it at once. Instead, by the way, you noted that I'm using :q. This is an exit command from Vim. This is back to my advice to learn Vim. If we have TLDR ls, we'll get this short summary how we can use this command. So yeah, this is really good. We will be using this command during today's session to see different options. Remember it. Next thing is FZF. This is fuzzy finder. What it does? Well, it finds content in lists. List could be list of files, list of commands, list of anything else. And fuzzy finder finds very fast everything that we need. Okay, let's see how it works. So we have, let's go. By the way, right now I am using cd command to change my directory, but in ZShell you probably don't need to do it. So instead of using cd, you could write just work demos and it will switch. The same is true for back. And also, if you need to go one level down, you can use 2 dots. And if you need to get 2 levels, not down, up, 2 levels up, you will use 3 dots, 4, and so on. So right now, if I execute the command containing all 3 dots, I will get to my home directory. This is very cool. Okay, but back to our fuzzy search. With fuzzy searcher, fuzzy finder, we can click Ctrl-T and get a lot of files. Basically, currently we see that they are in indexing. So it finds all the files in my directory and nested directories, and we can search through them. For example, I can find some README. Yeah, and I've got a lot of them. So I can use any of this. Usually the scenario is when you open some directory and you know that somewhere inside that directory there is a file, you know its name, but you don't know the path, and you want to open it in Vim. What you do is just type v, then Ctrl-T, readme, yeah, like Kafka examples, readme. Okay, here we go. Another use case is when you want to get to the directory with this file. In this case, you type cdf. This is extension to fzf, and again you type. It was Kafka, right? Kafka readme. That's it. And I changed my directory to the location where this file is situated. This tool integrates into Vim, into other thing. You can use it to find Git branches. There are a lot of different plugins built on top of it, so it definitely was checking, and it saves a lot of time. Next command is very cool. I cannot pronounce its name. Maybe I can. I'm not sure. So basically, this command reflects your emotion when you type something wrong and you just not happy with that. Like this. I have a keyboard from MacBook with butterfly switches, and after some time, some keys get repeated without my intention. So I made a typo here, but if I say this word, it will try to fix my error. It just analyzes the history and finds some good candidates, so you can read how it works on GitHub. I don't remember the details, but sometimes it works like a magic. The most useful use case for me is when you are locating on some, you are staying in Git repository, you create some branch, let's check out, or I can GCO, this is a plugin to ZShell. It basically add some aliases around Git commands. So instead of Git checkout, I'm use GCO and some new branch. I do some work and I want to push it. I tell Git push. However, Git complains that I need to type additional stuff. I don't want to do it. I could actually copy this stuff. And if I am using Tmax, I click some combination, just one, yeah, and I can put it here, but I will show you how I can troubleshoot this with this wonderful utility. It will try to fix my error. However, the first option that it proposes to me is not what I want. I need to switch to the next one, and in this case it will be correct. Now if I click enter, it will try to push stuff. I cannot push because it's not my repository. Anyway, so this is a known issue in the implementation, and they have fixed it but haven't released it yet. But there is a workaround. The workaround, I googled it. So we need to do this export thing. Again, I was using FZF right now to find the command from a history. I prepared to this talk, so yeah, this command is in my life. in my history, I execute this command. Let's try it again. Let's clear the desktop. And right now we see this command just a fast option. You can find another usages, so it supports very huge list of utilities, and it's really fun to use it in your work. For example, clear, let's try. Yeah, you can see magic. I like magic. Next thing is Z. Z basically allows you not to remember the location of your frequently visited places, but just use Z and type the path of the path, and it will try to get you there. For example, I have a folder or directory named health article. Yeah, it will find it. Down again. So it works. It's also time server that doesn't need you to remember different paths. So you know your projects, and you can go to any of these by just using its name or part of the name. Very, very cool thing. Next in our list is RG. This is a replacement for grep. All you know that grep is utility to find different stuff in files and text using regular expressions. Previously, I was talking about the fuzzy finder, but one of the downside or maybe strong side of fuzzy finder is that it doesn't support regular expressions. So you can just find by some combinations, and that's it. RG does what should do any cool regex finder. And to see its capabilities, let's use TLDR RG. We can use it just regularly, RG some text. Personally, I'm very often use iSwitch. For example, if I'm looking for foo, it will not find the foo from the capital letter. But if you provide the I, it basically ignore case, it will find it. Yeah, and it's just shorter version. Creators of this utility say that it works faster, but personally for me it's better than grep, because grep has some not easy to remember and to use switches. We need to Google it every time. RG is much easier to use. Next thing is JQ. They say this is a lightweight thing, but it's not the case. Personally, I tried to use it all the time, but in almost all cases, I need to Google about the syntax. This utility is for parsing and processing JSON. So if you work with JSON, you probably do. If you use some web APIs, maybe you are creating or parsing some configuration files and all that kind of stuff. You can use JQ just to filter things, to find some stuff, and so on. I can show you an example. I'm not sure why that doesn't work. Let's open Swagger. Let's find some we have tools, we have Swagger UI, live demo. We got this JSON. Let's try to curl it. We can see a lot of different letters without sense. But if we pipe this to JQ, we will get nicely looking formatted JSON. It's good. And also, if you don't want to get all the stuff, you can filter, for example, external docs, and we probably get only last section that we want. JQ is very powerful. It allows to build crazy complex expressions that I personally cannot remember, so I need to Google it, as I said previously. But you can use it in your scripts. Like personally, I'm using it to parse the content of Kafka topics. Most of our Kafka topics contain JSON, so JQ is tool number one of doing this stuff. Okay, let's go to the next. Next thing is a bat. Bat is a cat clone with wings. Bat basically is part of Batman, and cat is utility to see the content of files, and bat adds some cool capabilities to the content. So it detects the language, it has some syntax highlights, it shows things like line numbers. If a file is under Git, it will show markers like diff, so what has been changed, added or removed. And also it integrates with other tools. When you need to see the content of files, you can plug bat and see it in nice look. Okay, for example, we have Docker compose YAML, and let's try to see it. I'm using cat because actually I created an alias from cat to bat, so I don't have anything in cat that I would like to have. Yeah, and layout is very nice. We see the name of file, line numbers, its content. That's it. Very cool thing. Just drop-in replacement for cat utility. Next, next are two very powerful, two cool things. I will not demo them right now, but I just want that every one of you learned it, because these are really Superman that allows you to do things when other tools actually give up. In my experience, there were cases when I was trying to set up a CI/CD, and the framework we used was .NET, and for some reason, actually I know the reason, but anyway, the output of one tool was in XML, and I needed to parse it. So if it were JSON, I would of course use JQ, but I tried to Google something for XML, and the options were not very cool, so they required some Java. I didn't want to put Java into my CI/CD, create another Docker, whatever, and I decided to use sed or Oak. I don't remember which of these worked, but it worked like a charm. So I was able to parse my XML, find needed value from there, and all that in one line. It was maybe crazy line, but anyway, so you need at least to understand that there are such tools and some basics. They are not so complicated. You can do crazy things with this tooling, but for some simple scenarios, the usage is very straightforward. So my recommendation would be to get familiar with these tools. And last thing that I would like to share with you is how to sync your configuration across machines. You might have different computers, and probably you would like to have the same experience on them. In Linux, this is really easy because everything is file, and to make your experience the same. You just need to sync these files. Senior DevOps would probably choose an option based on Git. When you create some Git repository, you push it to GitHub, GitLab, whatever. Then you clone it to your working machine. You create your stuff like symlinks from your clone copy to your home directory. And then you just set up some automated or maybe manual syncing with your Git repository. I just Googled one of such examples. If you're interested in it, you can click on this link and find some information about it. This example contains a README file with the whole process, what you need to do, and that's it. Probably there are better examples, but I find this one and it's pretty sufficient. Oh, slides got broken, but anyway. However, for lazy guys like me, there are other options, and personally I'm using Backup. Backup is just a utility that you need to install using brew install, and all you do is to run the command backup. Backup is basically make backup, I think, yes. So what this command does, it takes your .files and syncs them with your Dropbox account. So you need to have Dropbox installed on your laptop when you're doing this, and the rest will do backup. So on your first laptop, you need to create backup, and on other laptops, you need to execute backup restore, and it will add syncing between your computers. I had an experience when I synced Ubuntu machine with my Mac. It works pretty good, so I can recommend it if you are, again, too lazy to set up things via Git. Okay, so we have reviewed a couple of CLI tools, and at the end of this session, I would like to think loudly about why CLI is better than graphical user interface based tools. The first advantage is that they work everywhere. So you may connect to the computer where you don't have any graphical interface. It may happen, but CLI will continue to work, and you will not need to leave your comfort zone. CLI tools could be, the command that you are issuing using CLI could be easily repeated. So you can use the history of your commands, you can change them, you can repeat them just with a few keystrokes. With graphical user interface, it's not always the case. Sometimes you need to click the same combination of buttons, and this combination could be long. And also CLI could be scripted. DevOps is a story about automating the different processes, and scripting is one way of doing this. So you can craft some command, then you can put it into some script file, and voila, you have automation. Also, the advantage is that you can Google CLI commands more easily than instructions based on UI tools. This is correct, especially if you find some advice from years ago and the UI has been changed since then. You will get hard times trying to repeat this advice. And even if you find some modern stuff, you will get a bunch of screenshots. Click here, click there, and so on. And this is not very cool to follow. CLI, you can Google, copy and paste, and that's it. However, there is one gotcha. I'm not sure how is it relevant right now, but just for interest, there is a site telling that copying stuff is not always safe. So, for example, you can copy this command in just some. I clicked copy, then I create some new file, and I paste it. And we can see that instead of just one line, we got some other content that potentially could bring some harm to your laptop. That's why you need to be careful when you take stuff from internet. This is basically true to any stuff from internet and for scripts especially. And I warned you about that. Okay, I think that's all what I got for today. I hope this was interesting and useful. Any of these tools could be installed on Mac using brew install, and on other platforms they could be installed using any other installation method for that platform. They're cross-platform. And be cool, DevOps. Thanks.